Hello ladies and gentlemen, Michael Matt for Rendezvous TV. We're here this week to cover the Roman Forum's Summer Symposium, which celebrates its 25th anniversary this year. Now this event is really one of the most unique lay-run annual events happening anywhere in the church today. In a moment we're going to go up into Gardone Sopra, which is this tiny little village here in the foothills of the Alps in northern Italy. I say that it's unique because although it's organized by a traditional Catholic, Dr. John Rao, it really is appealing to first-rate academics, professors, intellectuals from all over the world who may or may not identify as quote-unquote traditionalist Catholics. So again, I think this makes it very, very unique, and it's very interesting, and in a sense, it's one of a kind. So the question is, and the reason we're here, what is this Roman Forum? What's it all about? It was founded by Dr. Dietrich von Hildebrand, whom Pope Pius XII called the 20th century doctor of the church, a pretty important philosopher. So the spirit of von Hildebrand is certainly here. But who are these men who really do seem to be the true disciples of von Hildebrand, who are the keeper of his keys, if you will? Why has this event emerged now as a Catholic conference capable of attracting, well, this year, for example, a Roman Catholic bishop from Australia is here, top-flight Vatican journalists such as Edward Penton, first-rate philosophers such as Thomas Pink from King's College in London, Oxford fellow Dr. Joseph Shaw, the distinguished Oxford scholar and blogger, convert from Anglicanism, by the way, Dr. John Hunnick is here. The American journalist and commentator and author Christopher Ferrara is here. And just an array of people, theologians and philosophers from Sweden, from Austria, Spain, France, Italy, all around. And that's just this year. This says nothing about the heavyweights who helped to establish this thing over the years. Men like Michael Davies and Dr. David Allen White, the late Monsignor Barrero, for example. They've all been here, and many, many more. The list goes on and on. So there really is something interesting and unique that's going on here that carries the potential, I think, to change history in a sense. Because it all takes place in this beautiful medieval little village, way up in the center of which is the Duomo, in which the traditional Latin Mass becomes the anchor of this entire 12-day event. Well, what is it? What's it all about? What's going on here? Is it possible that here in Gardone Riviera, on the shores of Lake Garda, a serious Catholic counter-revolution, a Catholic restoration movement, if you will, is actually taking root because of the alliances and the men that represent Catholics from all over the world? Impossible? Absolutely beyond the question. This is an exaggeration? Let's find out.
Certainly in terms of having created this really cohesive community of comrades in this fight for the survival of Catholic Christianity, it's done wonders. In fact, it may be the case to say that one of the great impacts this program has had is on the town itself, which when we are here rediscovers what its roots are. And in fact, we are actually hosting here today about a dozen people from Gardone who are ecstatic about having the opportunity to have a traditional Mass.
I mean, it really is a microcosm of Christendom, but I know you're busy, but I wanted you to just say something about the fact that when you come here, you get to not just theorize about what Christendom, what we're fighting to restore, you actually get to live it, and there's so much fun that goes along with that.
Right. No, you get to live it, you get to pray it, you get to sing about it, you just get to do all of these things, which are all part of the human and supernatural experience in the proper hierarchy of values. One of the things that I find particularly extraordinary about the whole event, especially with regard to so many people coming back every year. We have people in this 25th anniversary year who've been here every 25 years, is that when we all meet together the first night, or when they arrive, and we see one another, it just reminds me of a passage from St. John Chrysostom, one of his homilies, where he talks about what it will be like at the resurrection of the dead, and what it's going to be in terms of an experience when St. Peter and St. Paul get to embrace one another again. Obviously, it's an analogy, but I feel like that each year. We've survived, we've continued the battle, we're here, and then we're celebrating the joy of Christendom. It's like an introduction to paradise.
The Roman Forum was founded by Dietrich von Hildebrand, who was, of course, the great Catholic philosopher in the 1950s and earlier, escaped from Nazi Germany. And then in the 60s, 70s, after the Vatican Council realized that there were some serious problems going on in the church. And he, I think, was very quick to discern what was going wrong because he was such an astute mind. And he was now settled in America, but he thought it would be a good idea to start something back here in Europe. And so he started the Roman Forum, and John Rao has taken on the mantle, and each year we analyse some part of the state of the church in the modern world, which is, shall we say, somewhat mixed.
In my opinion, there are different reasons. First of all, this is an interesting program from an intellectual point of view, but above all, in my opinion, this is an excellent program from a human point of view, because you can find him, you can meet here, friends like John Rao, or you, or Christopher Ferrara, or Ryan McCall, and priests of high quality. I was a great friend of Monsignor Barreiro, who is dead this year, as you know. But the atmosphere you have here, you have created here, it's excellent, and it is a great occasion to meet interesting people, to discuss interesting topics in a great atmosphere of friendship.
Well, one often hears in Rome people saying there's not enough education, there's not enough catechesis. People don't really know enough about the tradition of the church, the teachings of the church. And this sort of conference, I think at least, helps bridge that gap. So I think this sort of educates the faithful in a way which teaches them about the tradition. The church didn't just start after Vatican II, it goes back obviously 2,000 years, and I think this sort of conference would be of interest to readers, because I think a lot of readers want that sort of gap filled. And this conference, I think, goes a long way to doing that. And I've heard a lot about it over the years, and I think it's just interesting to find out what it is and how it's run and how it and the contribution it gives to the church.
Well, I've been seeing references to it and reports of it for many years. In fact, I know a number of people who've recently been given papers, and it sounds amazingly attractive to come for 10 days to a place like this with like-minded Catholics and have serious conversation and the talks that I've heard about. So I'm very happy to be here, and it's exactly what I expected.
Even if one were not anxious to look at the topics that we deal with at Gardone, well, coming to Gardone and eating and drinking and taking a boat trip around the lake and going to other restaurants and then going on a visit somewhere and then going to other restaurants. I mean, it's just, what can one say?
Why do you think it's an important event?
Yes, it's important because I have a good friend, John Rao, who invite me every year, and very willingly come here because it's very interesting to meet many people from various origins. Naturally, not to only to meet persons, but to speak about important things. And because there is multiple approaches, and it is very, very important to have that, to correct oneself, to enrich self-judgment, and so on.
It would be a perfect venue for a Catholic academic conference, but not just an academic conference, a place for traditional Catholics to come and renew their batteries for the fight back home, wherever that might be, back in America, Europe, or Australia, or wherever in the world, because it's just such a Catholic setting, and it exhibits that classic Catholic idea of subsidiarity. Everything is on a small and human scale, and everything that is man-made is in harmony with the surroundings of this beautiful lake region.
So in a nutshell, what brings you back every year?
The encounter with Catholics around the world who share with us the common cause of a restoration of all things in Christ, but do it from an academic and, I hate to use the word more intellectual perspective, but they engage in something that's a little bit more than polemical, and it would be more persuasive to someone who's not inclined to accept traditionalist rhetoric as such. And the point is to present people with a reasoned case for tradition in all of its aspects. Above all, the overarching theme of this gathering is the restoration of the social kingship of Christ.
Well, I think this is an event that you don't find anywhere else in the world. You find everything here that you love as a traditional Catholic. You find the traditional Mass, you find camaraderie, you find very nice conversations, you meet interesting colleagues from all over the world, you meet people from all over the world. You have very interesting discussions, very learned people. All the people here are very nice to each other, and it's just very, very pleasant to be here. Amongst us, we have a saying this year is 2 weeks of red paradise.
Well, I came because I knew John Rao, and I also knew you and Chris Ferrara. I knew that it was an important venue for discussing issues within the life of the modern church that are not given adequate coverage in areas of the official church at the moment, but which need intellectual discussion. And it's events like these that allow people to develop a better understanding of what's going on in the church and what's problematic and what might better be done to enable the church to fulfill her mission.
I know for a long time John Rao, and he invited me many times, and last year I was a couple of days, and this year I finally came because it was a very important year, because it's the 25th anniversary of the Roman Forum. And a part of John Rao, I have never met him, but I admire the character of Professor Dietrich von Hildebrand. And so, and his spirit is in some manner who inspired the Roman Forum from the beginning. And so I had this duty also of his memory.
Come from the UK and to this it's an excellent event where all the intellectuals, Catholic intellectuals from around the English-speaking world gather, and we discuss important parts of important aspects of theology and also pastoral perspectives on the current situation in the church. It's been a wonderful event because not only is it animated by Christian charity, we're also animated by an earnest desire to overcome the trials that the church is actually facing at the moment. And it starts first of all with doctrine, and then from doctrine the pastoral approach will necessarily be determined. And so I'm very happy to have been here, and I wish all success to all of the participants, and many graces to pursue the combat for Catholic doctrine and sane pastoral practice.
I could say I'm in a process of exploring traditionalist Catholicism, and this was one of the events and meeting places that came up in my search. So that's why I contacted John Rao for the first time and came, and he very graciously gave me a slot of time to do a presentation on the upcoming visit of the Pope to Sweden, which was great. So as it was a very positive experience, meeting many other people that I have both intellectual say interest, but also it's a more varied meeting than that. So It's great to come back and you meet a lot of people, many interesting discussions. It's also great to do the presentations. It's a very sympathetic audience with a critical intelligence, so that was great.
Well, actually I've seen some of the speakers from the Remnant, for instance. I saw John speaking, covering the Synod. I thought it was interesting. And obviously I've seen lots of your videos and lots of Chris. And the roster looked quite good traditional people. Dr. Thomas Stark, who I've also seen. There's something about traditionalism which I think is very attractive. There's a thirst for the truth, in a sense, which you don't find anywhere else. And an openness and freedom to seek it. And so I really wanted to come and see how you do it in Gardone.
Sono veramente onorato e felice.
Exactly what happened here today?
They've been doing work to get me my Italian citizenship because I have a right to dual citizenship. And the documentation hasn't completely come through yet. So what they decided to do was, because they wanted to have some ceremony in honor of the 25th anniversary of the Roman Forum, at least give me this honorary citizenship to indicate that, as far as they're concerned, I've already reached the goal. But what I was very much pleased and surprised at was the very fine description of the Roman Forum's work here, with all of the emphasis on Catholic civilization that a traditionalist could have put on it. So, and it was read with real enthusiasm, I think.
So much for the idea that you're not having an impact in this area.
Well, it seems to be something which is very good. Yeah, it seems to be something.
Just beautiful. It was so fun to be a part of this. Just briefly, who were these people? These were all the.
This is the town council. This is the town council, and the mayor. The mayor awarded me the citizenship. Then they had to symbolically vote for it. And then the woman who read the presentation is the head of the Vital Statistics Bureau, because she has to register the citizenships and just everyone in the town. So
go have a glass of wine. Congratulations, John.
Thank you.
Way to go.
Thank you.
So we started this week asking questions about this unique event. Having immersed myself now in it for the past 12 days, I can now say from experience that something truly amazing, in fact, is happening here in northern Italy. I'm left with the impression, after spending time with militantly Catholic personalities that we saw this week, that even as the sun sort of rises majestically over this great and beautiful lake every morning, a new day is also dawning in the Catholic Church, and a truly Catholic spirit is rising again, and it's palpable here in Gardone Riviera. The days of the modernist revolution and its accompanying Protestant liturgies and watered-down theology seem really numbered here at this event. At least that's what these fellows believe, and I got to tell you that to a large degree, I really, after spending some time here watching them all in action and seeing that all the words that were spoken here this week are being backed up by a militancy and a commitment to Catholic action, that they're willing to suffer the repercussions of speaking out in a day and age where compliance to the demands of the revolution kind kind of goes with the territory. So inspired and hopeful here on the shores of Lake Garda, here in Italy. I'm Michael Matt for Remnant TV, and we'll see you next time.